Welcome to the What to Do podcast with Larios, where the worlds of esports, gaming, animation, and more collide with the classroom. I'm bringing you my industry connections to help you level up, get inspired, and discover future passions. So, let's get into it. Today, we're diving deep into the fusion of technology and education with the trailblazer who's redefining how we learn in the digital age. Our guest is Kelly McNeil, the dynamic senior learning experience designer at Digital Promise, a global nonprofit committed to accelerating innovation in education. With a passion for co-designing transformative learning experiences, Kelly specializes in playful professional learning and seamlessly integrating games into the educational settings. Currently pursuing her doctorate in learning and innovation at Arizona State University, she's at the forefront of blending research, practice, and technology to create engaging and effective learning environments. Get ready to be inspired as we explore the future of learning. Kelly McNeil is in the building. All right, everybody, welcome my guest today. It's Kelly McNeil. Thank you for being a part of this journey of mine. This is unofficially episode 2. I've had some hiccups, but I guess that's normal when we work in technology, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. They say, if it can go wrong, it will, especially
Oh,
with tech. So no
yes.
worries.
Yeah, so thank you for being on today's episode. I like to start off each episode with getting a quick how'd you get to where you're at? A little story about who you are, so that the people are like, oh, cool, because obviously I'm having you on as a guest and I'm gonna ask questions that'll let people know who you are even more, but just a little snippet about who is Kelly.
Okay, sure. Yeah, a little snippet is hard, so I'll do the best that I can here. um, because I've done a lot of things. I've been around for a while. In my current role, I'm a senior learning experience designer at Digital Promise. I get to work with educators across the United States in playful learning communities. So I do a lot of professional learning with teachers around emerging technologies, whether it's games in the classroom, whether it's VR headsets. I do a lot of AI right now,
Okay.
but so that's what I do now. Are you going to ask me questions about how I got to where I am? Because
Yeah,
that's
of
a long
course.
story.
Yeah. And it's funny, right? When I decided to take this journey on doing a podcast, I didn't know I'd be like an intrepid reporter. Like I'd have to go like search people even more than like what I would know some of the people. And you've had quite the journey. I went through your LinkedIn.
Okay, all right.
So you've had quite the journey, which is pretty cool because um it's these journeys that kind of build us to where we're like brought us to our point where we're at in our lives and that have kind of helped us become the superstars that we are. So being that you're a part of Digital Promise and you're tied in with that, and if you guys don't know, they have an awesome Discord that we can share the link later, so you can get with all the other teachers and get to know more about everything they're doing and what we all can do to collaborate. Um, but um, in your experience, can you share an example of how Digital Promise has helped innovate schools and improve their learning experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of examples across all of the different departments, and one that comes to mind is the Verizon Innovative Learning Schools. And I don't work in that department. I
Okay.
started at Arizona State University working with the labs. And so I know a lot about that. I do know a lot about that program, but I should probably talk more about the projects that I actively work on. So I actually just got back from Anaheim where I presented at the AI K-12 Deeper Learning Summit. And this was a convening of educators, like from teachers to principals
Yeah.
to superintendents, where Digital Promise hosted this with AI EDU and with the Anaheim Union High School District. And it really brought us together to talk about different innovative practices around AI and its use in the school. And there's a school there, Anaheim Union High School, where last year we opened up an HP AI Spotlight School.
Oh,
So
cool.
our team went in and we, sponsored by HP, Microsoft, and Intel, put equipment in there, high powered computers. I went in with the teachers and did some professional learning with them. I learned about their projects they were doing with their students, and we highlighted this during a demo. We stayed in touch with them throughout the year and did a white paper where we talked about how how access to technology can increase the access to CTE or career and technical education pathways for students.
Okay.
So that's just one small way. I get to work
Nice.
on lots of projects like that.
Nice. And I love the idea of AI because everyone's starting to dabble in it. And as an educator myself, I see it in the classroom. I see it whether I'm designing in Adobe or I'm asking my students to write something to turn it in. Um, so I love the idea that we should I think we should embrace it, to be honest. And a lot of people are kind of skeptical. I have friends in the animation industry that are skeptical. They feel like there's going to be their job replacement. Uh, but being that you are pretty versed in the AI realm now with all the stuff you've done, and I saw what you posted, all the coding that you were having to like decipher for you. Um, what advice would you give to a high school student that's embracing AI? But with great power comes great responsibility. So how do we teach them that responsibility with AI?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you recognize that there is responsibility. And my recommendation would be to really understand AI literacy. Digital Promise actually has published an AI literacy framework
Oh, cool.
that talks about how to approach AI so that you are understanding what it is, that it's not just a magic power, that it is a machine, and that it's just making predictions based off of patterns, based off of data sets. So you need to evaluate what are the risks with that.
Yes.
Is it always accurate? No, like it will give you very confidently inaccurate information, such as references and citations. So you always need to double check anything that is coming out of it. But I do encourage at the appropriate age, because you have to follow the terms of service and what
Yes.
the age requirements are. I'm all about play, so that is sort of my you know thing is playful professional learning. I'm a
Yes.
playful community builder, and to me play is about really getting your hands in and experiencing something like firsthand.
Yeah.
So I encourage the use and experimentation with tools that are safe to kind of figure that out
Yeah.
and see what you can do with it
Yeah.
basically. And that's how I have learned. The majority of what I have learned is through play and
Yes.
through just experimentation and seeing what it can do, while being very aware that, again, it's extremely confident about what
Yes.
it can do. It will tell you, "Oh, this is the right answer," and you need to double check, and you need to make sure. But also not just using it for answers or for rewriting. It can do some really innovative things. You brought up that experiment I did with coding,
Yeah.
and in my background, I have coding. I know how to code. It's been a really long time. I don't do it on a day-to-day basis, but if you learn how to form a question correctly, you can ask it some very interesting things and get some really great outputs that's not just creating a picture or
Yeah.
creating an essay. It can actually put things into tables for you. It can help you look at ideas in a different light. And yeah, with the coding, you know being able to provide it with an example of what I wanted in that specific instance. I wanted to clean up some data and I wanted to extract very specific things from it. But here's the thing about that experiment. I knew that data I had, I did not want to give to AI
Okay.
because it was some protected data that was in
Yes.
there. And so but I figured that I knew AI could do what I wanted it to do, but I also thought maybe AI knows how I can do it safely on my own system. So
Yeah.
that's what I asked it.
Okay.
And it said, yeah, download this integrated development environment. You would use Python for this, and this is how you would do it. I had to ask you that's the thing also with prompting is the iteration, right?
Yeah,
You have to keep going. Like the first thing it tells you isn't always exactly what you
yeah,
need. And so you have to sort of keep asking. It will give you a little bit and then, I would say, okay, I need you to explain this exactly. Well, what is the Python code? And how would I run the Python code? And where do I go for this?
yeah,
And it gave me all of that. So
yeah,
it's really interesting way to use
yeah.
it.
That's pretty cool. I always think about it whenever I open up my chat GPT that I'm actually training it. I'm not like my asks are training. And that's what I try to exemplify to my students when I first introduced them. I use Copilot in the classroom. I saw everyone was doing the Funko Pop little experiment. So I was like, all right, class, here's your test at AI. Just to so you understand that there's this prompt here. Will this prompt give you exactly what you're looking for? Probably not. Give it a shot. Okay, we gave it a shot. So what do we have to ourselves go into there and tell the AI that you need to change or see differently? So like I knew going into this, I wanted them to have that hands-on experience because that's how I learned. I let like the whole just give me the computer, give me the software, I'll figure it out. But I wanted to make sure that they understood that too, that the AI, as cool as it could be, isn't always accurate. It's going to take you into a rabbit hole, and you're like, wow, now I really misinformed the world. Wow, I should have done better. But I love that idea that we get to deal with this new technology, and uh, we should be embracing it and not being afraid of it. And like you said, of course, with the appropriate age, because we don't want a seventh grader or a fifth grader. Let me see you do my math homework. Will it? Yes, but you might get 2 + 2 is 6. um,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
it's a cool concept. So being that you just talked about, you just came back home from Anaheim, California, which people watching the podcast know that I'm a California person. What was it like presenting on the topic of AI, being that you have this experience, you have this connection to a local high school that Digital Promising you got to work with? What was that like?
It was just really rewarding. Honestly, I like going out and presenting, but also my presentation style is not as much of a presentation as
Okay.
it is sort of a co-participation. I really design workshops that are hands-on. The
Okay.
same way that I like to learn, I try to bring that to my educators. And so I'll talk a little bit, just to kind of like introduce things
Yeah.
and kind of get some instructions. But both of the sessions that I led were playground sessions. And so
Ooh,
we were actually like hands-on, working with I had created a couple of playful prompt ideas for educators to get together in groups and explore.
okay.
And it was great. It was so fun to see them iterate and turn some of the little games that I had made into their own games. One of them I did was a reverse Pictionary. And so I
Ooh.
had one of the educators would actually use a generative AI tool to create an image, and then the other educators were supposed to try to guess the prompt.
Oh.
And so what that educator did was rather than them just like writing the prompts out, she had them pull up their own AI generator tools and they
Okay.
actually were typing them in and trying to get the images all to match.
Ooh.
And it was really fun just to see that. So it's rewarding for me
Okay.
to be able to just see the educators that I helped with, this lab, then come in and it's like full circle because the second session I actually co-presented. I designed it so that the educators from the high school that we did a ribbon cutting at, they were co-presenting with us. So they are I get to work with the educators
Yeah.
and talk to them, but I'm not in the classroom anymore. I did come from the classroom, but
Yeah.
I'm not there anymore. And so I don't have that same perspective of what's happening every single day
Yeah.
with students. And so I will bring in my educators always as co-designers, co-participants, co-leaders, empowering them to share with other educators what their actual experiences are in the classroom with their students.
Nice. Which is awesome because that kind of leads me into my next question. Which wow, this just happens so naturally. I love it. Um, so the question is, how does you as a person working with digital promise involve students in designing the learning experiences? Is that an actual thing you talked about connecting with the educators because what happens in the classroom, there's the disconnect, right? But you ever have the students give the feedback, give the input? Because I guess you could say they're like our test subjects in a sense when we try things out.
They definitely are, they definitely are, and it really depends on what project it is. So there are limitations where I can't always interface
Yeah.
directly with students, but there are a lot where I do get to do that. So one of my projects is called the Sienna Solutions Challenge, and I work with, 3 schools in Atlanta, Georgia. They're
Okay.
model schools, and so I've actually visited those schools, and I've had a chance to talk to the students about their project. Everything is challenge based learning, and the students are creating a project around a UN sustainable development goal that addresses either a local community or a global community
Okay.
issue. And they're sort of working with technology through the challenge based learning process to design a solution, which they then present for the larger community. And so I get to talk to those students. I get to hear about their projects and how what it's like to work with that process, and it's really rewarding to do that. In the other projects where I don't get to directly interface, I'm able to talk more with the educators
Okay.
about supporting their students in those processes and making and, you know, I let every educator know, "You know your students. I
Yes.
don't know your students."
That is true.
So, when we are talking and when we are working together as a cohort and we're working in a community, that's what I love about the community is that the educators can talk to each other about what's happening in each of
Yeah.
their individual instances, and they can share those experiences, but each educator is going to take something very unique that is going to work the best for them with their students. And yes, we definitely encourage the like student choice and voice, listening to your students. I'm a big proponent, if you can't tell, on co-participation,
Yeah.
co-design, co-development of materials. So I think those are the ways that I'm able to like involve and work with students in certain ways.
See.
Oh, and there was one thing. So this isn't quite digital promise, but I guess it is. So I was a classroom teacher
Okay.
and I taught computer science and I taught makerspace education. And in the county where I live in Florida, I started the very first Girls Who Code Club.
Oh, cool.
And I was really proud of it. I loved it. Over the course of the few years I was teaching, I was able to encourage I was with girls who went from middle school to high school, and
Okay.
by the time they got to high school, they were leading the club, and we were, like, branching off into, like, multiple clubs,
Nice.
and so I loved that experience, and 3 weeks ago, my mentor teacher who when I was becoming a teacher,
Mhm.
I went and did
Yeah.
student teaching, inside of a classroom. Uh, she reached out to me and said that she had started a Girls Who Code Club and she wanted to do a day of code event and would I come and be a mentor and a moderator? And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I had the opportunity to go, for the day to the high school where I was a student teacher, and I got to talk to all of the girls. I got to, like, work with them on their projects, walk them through wireframing for building an app, and, several of them were very interested in, like, my pathway
Yeah.
and, what I do and explaining it, and, yeah, that was fantastic to be able to share that with them.
Nice. That's awesome. It's like almost like a full circle story. Like you started, you've gone, you got to come back and make that connection. And that's just pretty awesome. Um, so here's another question. Um, I like having fun when I teach. I like making it fun. And I know you're all about playful learning. So how can playful learning enhance the understanding of complex subjects? Like I was horrible at math. Like what game could we integrate into math and be like, I get it now?
So, funny enough, I feel like with games, you could take almost any game, and I could work with, like, a content area specialist and figure out how a lesson could come out of
Okay.
it. Because for me, when I'm playing games, I'm learning through almost every game that I play.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, how do you make it fun? Yeah, games is one way to make it fun. Knowing your students and what they're interested in, that's really, I think, the key to fun because
Okay.
not all like games. So, maybe your kids are into sports, and so you're able to turn something into a sports lesson.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned the math, the first thing that came to mind, I love Stardew Valley, and
Okay.
I was playing that with a good friend who she's not an educator anymore. She was previously an educator, and she is a math person. Like
Okay.
she's a math whiz. I have a math phobia. Okay, so which is
Same
funny
here.
because my my undergrad, my bachelor's degree is information technology, and I had to do coding classes and I had to take
Uh,
math classes, but I have a straight up phobia for math. And so but she's super smart at math. And as we were she was understanding what I was writing my dissertation about around playful professional learning and having educators design learning experiences for students within games. We got to talking about Stardew Valley, and um, we were so specific and detailed around planning our farm and using basically like graph paper because it's all based on a pixel grid system,
yeah.
which is very mathematical. Like you can calculate the area. And we were trying to grow these special crops. You have to plant your crops in a very specific pattern in order to increase your probability of growing this special crop. And as we were talking through this and, like, mapping this out as 2 adult women just having fun because this is what we wanted because it made
Yeah.
our farm look pretty, I was like, "Wow, like, we could turn this into a math lesson," of like, "Okay, here's the square footage of your farm, and if you want a giant cauliflower, how many seeds do you have to buy and what." Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's just one silly example, but literally I'm hard pressed to think of a game that you couldn't share with me that I couldn't somehow I can find like learning moments. It's where when I was a teacher, I would partner with the content area specialist
Yeah.
because they know their topic.
Yeah.
And so they would be like, "Well, this is our learning objective." And I'm like, "Oh, there's a connection here, in Legend of Zelda with this sort of puzzle that you could do this." So, um, yeah, but fun is definitely important. I think it reaches students who are not as interested possibly in school.
Yeah.
My youngest son has ADHD and he's graduated now. He's actually in the Marine Corps. But I had to experience not only being a teacher and
Yeah.
having students that had different learning difficulties, but a mother, with 2 children going through school that had different difficulties with math. And
Yeah.
so it was just a very personal thing for me to always figure out how to engage students that maybe were not otherwise interested in things.
Yeah. That's sweet. Um, man, Stardew Valley. I have students that are giant fans. I have not ventured into that realm yet. There's just too many titles I can, running
Yeah.
esports, managing all this other thing, all these other items. It's just like that's just another game. I can't. I don't have enough time in the day. Um, so I have a question. This is off the cuff, not even on my list. Um, what was that aha moment for you that brought you into education and then made you realize that I can connect games to what I do in the classroom?
Yeah, well, I definitely know the aha for education. I think the games maybe came a little bit later, and so I'd have to think about that one, but the aha for education was really around emerging technology,
Okay.
and I mentioned that I don't have, my bachelor's degree is not in education.
Yeah.
I did not want to become a teacher. I tell everyone this, I feel very bad, but teachers do not get paid what they are worth, and I knew this, that teachers didn't get paid enough, and teachers do not get the respect that they deserve. So there was really no desire for me to be a teacher despite people saying, "You'd be a great teacher." I was like,
Yeah.
"No, no, no." But as a mom and actually love kids and I love volunteering. And I started volunteering in the schools and I noticed technology in
Yeah.
the classrooms. There were lots of technology available, but the teachers weren't using it.
Yeah.
And it was and my kids in elementary school were helping teach their teachers how to use this technology. And it was that moment where I thought, I always wanted to do something with technology and computer science or, systems administration, cybersecurity. These were the things I was very interested in. But I just became inspired in that moment that someone needs to teach these kids. Like these kids need to
Yeah.
learn technology. It's the
Yeah.
future. And so that was like the first aha where I decided I'm going to become a teacher. And then it evolved as I was around more educators
Okay.
who, again, there's a varying spectrum of um sort of interested in technology to completely not really wanting to do technology or just using it in very like simple ways and not to its capacity.
Yeah.
So there are now educators who use a lot of technology in different ways, but that was my inspiration to then go into more of teaching teachers and
Okay.
educating educators on how to use these technologies and the game connection. Oh gosh, so again, I've been a gamer my whole life
Yeah.
and I just love games. And it started coming around, I think, when I was able to write curriculum at Arizona State University. So this was after I left. You know what? I say that. I mean, I brought games into my classroom, but when I brought games in my classroom, it was it was something that other educators were like, "You're teaching lessons?" I was like, "Yes, we're playing Pokemon Go and I'm using teaching them how to use Excel and we're like mapping out like the characteristics of our Pokemon." And so there was always just this natural I thought about it. I
Yeah.
just wasn't able to push it as much mainstream
Yeah.
until I got my master's in education, and now I'm working on my doctorate in education, and it started giving me better language to talk to other
Yeah.
educators about how this works and why it works the way it does,
Yeah.
and then getting the opportunity to write curriculum, and I was able to start integrating the games into it, and it's just evolved into, where we are now,
Yeah.
so
That's awesome. So now I have to ask, being that you are a gamer at heart,
yes.
top 5 video games.
Oh boy. Okay, well, number 1 is always easy because it's always the same, like, it
Okay.
never changes. My number 1 favorite video game is Final Fantasy VII, the
Ooh, okay.
original one on the original PlayStation.
Okay.
So, yes, that dates me, but, 1998, and yeah, I was in high school. Yeah, that's number 1. Number 2, so I'll say the one that's coming to mind, and, like, you just have to keep in mind, like, my tastes change, and so
Of
things shift
course.
around. But I would say probably number 2 is Skyrim,
Okay.
on PC. So I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan. I played Elder Scrolls Online a lot, but Skyrim was like, solo adventure, really got me into it. Number 3, I really liked, like, the Mario series,
Okay.
and, like, all Mario titles are pretty good.
Okay.
It's hard to think of one that I don't like, but in particular, Super Mario Brothers 3 was
Okay.
probably one of the ones that I just really loved. I was 8 or 9 when we got like, the original NES. Which brings up I'm saying really old games, Legend of Zelda. So, like, the original
Yes.
Legend of Zelda,
Okay.
gold cartridge, original NES.
Okay.
So how many is that now? 4?
Yes.
I gotta pick something more modern now. What's the most modern one? Oh gosh. I also really like, horror.
Okay.
I like, survival horror. So, gosh, I don't know if I would go with the Resident Evil series or the Silent Hill series. They're both
Ooh.
very, very
Okay.
dark and very
Okay.
scary.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just ran from, like, fantasy land
Yay! Like, ah!
cutscene.
Oh,
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So
But, like you said, our tastes change, so that's completely normal. Like, I went through a whole Resident Evil fan, like, phase where I was
going through the games and playing it on extremely hard and challenging myself. And then there's like Mario Brothers where I just like, oh, let's just have fun. Let's find all the cheats. And
Yeah.
when we were younger, it was a book. It wasn't no internet to find how to do this stuff. It was a $20 thick catalog that took you page by page on how to do everything.
They also had telephone hotlines.
Yes.
I don't know if you're that old, but I was around during the telephone
Yeah. I
hotline
never
days
called
that you
them.
could call.
I was always hesitant. Okay, so let me ask a student centered question, right?
Okay.
With your experience, what skills should students focus on to thrive in a technology driven world?
That's a great question. Well, a lot of the skills that I'm going to talk about or that I think about are actually what you would consider soft skills
Okay.
and not hard skills, because hard skills like what programming language you use or how to type, those are things that anybody can learn.
Yeah.
The soft skills you really have to work on. These are things like communication and
Yeah.
collaboration. So, and really, it's the environments you're in and what you're doing. I think that help develop those soft skills. So, communication is really, really important. And I think that even writing, so oral and written communication is
Okay.
just extremely important. And I think it is very um, underrated,
Okay.
to be honest.
Okay.
And I think I have been able to get as far as I have because of like just excellent communication skills. And so it's definitely something that, so it's like, well, how do you develop that? You write, you
Yeah.
practice, you write, you talk. If you're someone that's shy, try to find ways, I think, to do things bit by bit at a time.
Yeah.
I was part of the debate club, and it was just fun for me to do stuff like that. But all of those things help communi- with your communication
Okay.
skills. Um, yeah, so that's a big one. Collaboration is another one.
Okay.
Then it's that kind of goes along with the communication. Um, I will say in terms of hard skills, it- computer science skills and what I would say computational thinking skills are extremely important. So it's less important for you to learn a very specific programming language as much as it is important for you to understand what programming is
Okay.
and like the process and the structure of programming. So, I learned Java and I learned C++ plus plus, and now like I know like some Python, but it doesn't I don't code in those, but understanding when I'm looking at a program, what a comment is,
Yeah.
what a loop is, what different structures are in putting together code, that's much more important than any of those languages because the languages just come and go.
Yeah.
And yeah, just understanding. So if there is a course, for computer science, for introduction to computational thinking, and I much prefer computational thinking classes to like straight up computer science classes because there were two AP classes out there. One was AP Computer Science, which
Okay.
taught Java, and I don't know if it still does or not. But then there's AP Computer Science Principles, and I might be biased because I taught that class, but I looked at both, and I specifically wanted to teach that class because computer science was straight Java, and again, Java comes and goes or whatever
Yeah.
language it is. But computer science principles actually allowed you to learn all about like what is an algorithm, like
Yeah.
what is computational thinking, and it let you pick your own language
Yeah.
to build a project, which at the time I was teaching App Inventor, which was actually block based coding. So you didn't have to type the code, you would drag and
You drop.
drop
Yeah.
like Scratch,
Yeah.
and build apps. So, yeah, that might have been a long answer, but that would be my advice, for students,
Yeah.
with technology. And I guess the last thing would be have an open mind.
Okay.
Just, like, be flexible, and play, okay? You gotta play. You gotta play with stuff, because you really can't break things. I mean, you might think you can, and you kind of can, but not really.
Yeah.
Like, play with it. And the more you play with something, the more you're going to learn how it works and what it is and what it does.
I definitely love that. I love that you brought the computer science thing, the principles over the Java, because even in my experience, because I've been able to tinker around not just animation but web design and having to learn CSS and HTML and all the other codes. Like it totally makes sense. Like I can open up something like this is what it's trying to do. Um,
Hmm.
and for the kids, you talked about the algorithms. They're all about social media nowadays. You learn how to do the algorithm. You learn how to manipulate it on your actual phone to get the outcome you want. So I love the advice and the play. 'Cause if we're not playing, we're not going to learn or try to break something to learn. Sometimes you have to break it to fix
Yeah.
it.
Yep. For sure.
So, as we get to the wrap up portion of this, I always like to ask my guests this question. And I think it's a good one. And everyone, just like I asked you the video game question, you had to think about it because there are so many titles, right? So, what's one piece of advice you'd go back and give young Kelly about your journey now?
Oh gosh, it would be to take a computer science class, which wasn't really available, but I think what was available for me back then, there was shop class, which just wasn't like a girl
Yeah,
thing to
no,
do,
yeah,
and there was also I think it was like drafting
yeah,
or something. I would have told myself to take those, because the what they did in there, I learned as like a maker educator,
yeah.
and I yeah, I don't know. Then I might not have gone into education. I might be an engineer or something, but it just take those things early. If you think that it's not for you, and like I just said, I was like,
Yeah,
shop class is not for girls. It is. Okay.
yeah,
There is no class that is for boys and for
yeah.
girls. Like there all of these things are important for all of us. So yeah.
Sweet. So thank you. Appreciate that. Um, in the words of Porky Pig, ibbity ibbity, it's not all, folks. I'm actually gonna give Kelly the full screen, and Kelly's gonna tell us how we can get a hold of her, and look into anything that she's working on, whether it's personal or through Digital Promise. The screen's yours, Kelly.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, I would first of all love to have everyone join our community. As mentioned earlier, we have the Digital Promise Playful Learning Community Discord server. We are a fast growing, vibrant, thriving community of educators. We talk about AI in education, we talk about makerspace education, and of course, we talk about games in education, lots of that. And it's not all education, like, we just talk and have fun and chat sometimes. So, would love for everyone to join that community. We also have 3 different communities on LinkedIn, and I will see if I can get those links dropped or shared. But we have a youth made community on LinkedIn. We have an AI education exchange community on LinkedIn, and then we have our Level Up EDU community on LinkedIn. As far as my personal connections, I love chatting with anyone about all things education, all things playful education, whether it's about the career and how I got to where I am, or times in the classroom, or it's a teacher who just wants to like chat about something they're doing in their classroom, or a technology that you're not sure how to use. I love answering those sorts of questions. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Kelly McNeil, and you can also find me on Twitch as a streamer. I dabble from time to time streaming educational games. I sort of focus on both games that are student made as well as games that are, made for educational purposes. And you can find me under EDU Gamer Gal. That is also my social handle for Blue Sky and Instagram. And I think that's all I'm using on social platforms now. I kind of go in and out of different social platforms, but yeah, Kelly McNeil, EDU Gamer Gal. Those are the places that you could find me, and I'd love to connect and hear more.
Sweet. So everybody, virtual round of applause for Kelly. Thank you for being our guest today. It's been fun. We got to do this again. I feel
Yeah.
like there's more to this. There's definitely more to this. And yeah, we definitely have to do this again because I really have to pick your brain just as an educator myself, and
Yeah.
that's why we plug the
Let's
Discord.
hop on a co-op game and do a stream. I'm down
Yeah.
for it.
Oh, for sure. I am totally. I can do that.
Awesome.